ladies and gentlemen. So I've watched everything Comic-Con related when it comes to the DC movie universe. Comic-Con panels, interviews, and of course the trailer for the upcoming Justice League movie. The trailer is awesome, it's really amazing. I kind of loved it. But when thinking about it further, the trailer for Batman v Superman was pretty good, pretty promising, and then the movie pretty much sucked. So just to make a short story even shorter, I hope the movie ends up being pretty good, but I'm not getting my hopes up. Now, the whole news on the 2020 Flash movie being all about Flashpoint seemed initially exciting. The movie could, in 60 to 90 minutes, do a great job of what the CW's Flash totally skipped. I mean, the beauty of Flashpoints in the comics is all about the new timeline and what it presents in the aggregate and to everyone, rather than what it brings to those in Barry's inner circle. So the movie will actually give us a second chance at watching a live-action version of Flashpoint. And that's exactly why the decision sounds initially exciting. It's just that I hope that the CW's Flash would actually venture further and within their means into the concept of Flashpoint. But instead it didn't happen and they wrapped the whole thing up in less than one episode. But anyway, let's just circle back to my core point here. While the initial perception of the decision to go with Flashpoint for the movie is kind of positive, a thorough thought of the decision kind of reflects badly on it. Before I explain any further though, let me remind you of a few things here. Amazon gift card giveaway, drop a relevant comment, enable notifications, be a subscriber, and while you're at it, slap a like on this video. So let's break it all down one point at a time here and look at the positives and negatives inherent in this decision. The first stop here will be the comic book version of Flashpoint. For now, I'm just going to highlight how Flashpoint happened in the comics in the first place and the major differences distinguishing it from the original pre-Flashpoint timeline. Unlike the CW's version of Flashpoint, the comic book version originally seemed to have been created by Eobard Thawne rather than Barry Allen. When Barry wakes up to this new reality, he realizes everything is different. Number 1, Nora Allen is alive and Henry Allen died of a heart attack rather than in prison. Number 2, his alter ego of the Flash is non-existent. Number 3, Superman as an individual and the Justice League as a team do not exist. Number 4, Aquaman and Wonder Woman are both at war along with their people, the Atlanteans and the Amazons, and while they are at it, they're sinking continents and conquering nations. Number 5, the heroes known to Barry as the Justice League members are at odds and cannot agree, and hence are unable to work together. Number 6, Batman is Thomas Wayne since Bruce Wayne died in his place on this timeline, and Thomas Wayne is bloody. But my favorite of all these changes is number 7, Captain Cold, or in this case Citizen Cold, is Central City's greatest hero. His status on Earth 2 on the CW's Flash is pretty much a nod to that. Now, during the time he spent in Flashpoint, Barry had to restore his powers by repeating the experiment that gave it to him in the first place. When he meets Thawne in Flashpoint number 5, he's angered by what he's done to the timeline, only for Eobard to reveal he's done nothing, and that it's all Barry's doing, that he's responsible for all of it. Thawne then refers to Flashpoint as a world Barry Allen created that is being torn by his very own friends before he gives them a variation of Who's the Villain Now Flash that we watched on the Season 3 premiere. You see, it turns out you're the villain today. Right after, Thawne resets Barry's vibrations so he could remember being at his mother's grave on her first birthday after Barry discovered Thawne was the one to have killed her. And it is at that point that Barry Allen ran to the past, pulled the entire Speed Force into himself in order to stop Thawne from killing his mother, and he succeeded and created Flashpoint. I'll be discussing more of the Flashpoint comic book arc on another video, or at least certain aspects to it, and it is only because this comic book arc seems to make a lot of sense of a lot of things on the show, particularly on the 3rd season, including why Savitar was the perfect villain for said season. Now, if you would like, you could let me know in the comments, but I could also include on that video an organized Flashpoint reading list, which ran for and across around 60 comic book issues. But the second stop here, it's all about those initial reasons that makes the decision to go with Flashpoint sound so great. Unlike the cases with the TV version, the movie will not need to go for a villain reveal trope. Barry Allen should already know the alleged creator of Flashpoint, Eobard Thawne. That would of course allow for more action and more focus on what is important, considering the movie would run for 60 to 90 minutes at best. Now, I'm also almost certain the movie universe does not want to start its Flash legacy by putting Ezra Miller in comparison with Grant Gustin. Don't get me wrong here, the outcome might or might not be favorable for Miller, but it's just not worth the risk. The same goes as well for whoever's gonna be playing Eobard Thawne on the movie. As a direct result of all of that, the movie might not want to start from the very beginning where Barry is still in that phase, searching for proof of his father's innocence. There is also the fact that the movie has the characters to portray the Flashpoint arc closer to how it happened in the comics. They've pretty much got most of the characters that matter from the Justice League, something that was definitely missing on the TV series. For example, the CW's Flash couldn't have done the part with Thomas Wayne, considering Batman does not exist in the Arrowverse, not on Earth 1 at least. Thinking of it though, and in retrospect, the show could have kinda done something similar, using a character like maybe Robert Queen. But there are way too many examples of what I'm trying to establish here. Cyborg, for example, is an integral part to Flashpoint, a character who is readily available within the cinematic universe. The same goes as well for Aquaman and Wonder Woman and their respective people, the Atlanteans and the Amazons. But moving on to our final stop on this video, and it's all about the negatives that made me very skeptical about the Flashpoint movie. The first and most important thing of note here is that not everyone watches the series or reads the comics. I've personally got a friend who watches the series and watches the movies, but I've never read a comic. I've got another friend who watches every single comic book based movie, but has never in his life picked up a comic book or watched a single episode of all these ongoing series. And in order to achieve the right kind of success for this movie in specific and the franchise in general, the movie needs to cater to everyone. Those who read the comics, those who have never read a comic book in their lives, those who watch the TV versions, and those who may not even care enough to own a television. But what the movie might end up doing here is present characters without a background story, and the lack of a background story makes it all forgettable. It's like watching The Godfather. Most people believe The Godfather Part 2 is better than Part 1, but they also believe that Part 1 is what makes Part 2 great, that you cannot watch the latter without watching the former. On that note though, The Godfather happens to be my very own favorite movie of all time. But back to my point though, the origin story for the Flash and the Reverse Flash might be necessary to make these Ezra Miller movies memorable. The movie might start off with a quick 4, maybe 5 minute scene identifying the killer of Barry's mother, giving us such an origin arc, but one thing will definitely take from the other. If such a short and small origin story is done, it still might not get to build the right kind of emotional investment. Now, part of the emotional build-up on the CW's Flash came from Barry's persistence on finding his mother's killer and proving his father's innocence as well. And yet a lot of fans didn't like how he messed up with the timeline on the show, mostly non-comic book reading fans, but still, same difference. Now just imagine an audience sitting there being presented with Flashpoint without that kind of emotional build-up. Now that would definitely be a bad idea. But besides all of that, there's as well the fact that the movie universe is already struggling, and jumping into one of the better comic book arcs head first could be catastrophic. It would definitely as well be very unfair to Ezra Miller because he'll be judged for his performance there. In fact, I did kind of misspeak there. It's not just one of the better arcs, but as well one of the bigger and more interesting arcs in the comics, and sort of a historical landmark when it comes to DC Comics. Now finally, let's talk my final verdict on this piece of news, and I'm definitely not prejudging the movie here. I did mention not only cons, but pros as well. Personally think it was one of the most terrible decisions to make there, just because of the kind of huge risk it entails. But if the movie succeeds, and I do hope it does succeed, the DC movie universe will be able to score the kind of points it scored with the Christopher Nolan, Christian Bale Dark Knight trilogy. So let's just say I'm pretty excited for the idea, but with super extreme caution. But with that being said, let me know in the comments what you thought of the announcement of the Flashpoint movie and what you think of the points I raised here, both positives and negatives. Let me know as well what you think of the Justice League movie trailer. Do you think it's going to be as good as the trailer indicates, or another letdown just like Batman v Superman? And finally, let me know if you want to take me up on my offer to shove a Flashpoint reading list on the video I announced I'll be uploading soon, possibly over the weekend. And as usual, remember, it's always much appreciated if you drop me a like if you like the content of this video, and if you subscribe if you want to see more of these videos. And if you're already a subscriber or you just subscribed, make sure you click that sexy bell-shaped icon underneath this video to enable notifications. That way you will get informed of my videos as they come online. But until I see you next, thank you all for watching and have a wonderful day.